My son was particularly ornery when he was a toddler. When my daughter was little, I could paralyze her into immobility with an evil glance. Such an intervention had no effect at all on my son. He had my wife, who is no pushover, stymied at the dinner table by the time he was 9 months of age. He fought her for control over the spoon. Good, we thought. We didn't want to feed him one more minute than necessary anyway. But the little blighter would only eat 3 or 4 mouthfuls. Then he would play. He would stir his food around in his bowl. He would drop bits of it over the high chair tabletop and watch as it fell on the floor below. No problem. He was exploring. But then he wasn't eating enough. Then, because he wasn't eating enough, he wasn't sleeping enough. Then his midnight crying was waking his parents. Then they were getting grumpy and out of sorts. He was frustrating his mother, and she was taking it out on me. The trajectory wasn't good. After a few days of this degeneration, I decided to take the spoon back. I prepared for war. I set aside sufficient time. A patient adult can defeat a 2-year-old, hard as that is to believe. And the saying goes, old age and treachery can always overcome youth and skill. This is partly because time lasts forever when you're 2. Half an hour for me was a week for my son. I assured myself of victory. He was stubborn and horrible, but I could be worse. We sat down face to face, bowl in front of him. It was high noon. He knew it and I knew it. He picked up the spoon. I took it from him and spooned up a delicious mouthful of mush. I moved it deliberately toward his mouth. He eyed me in precisely the same manner as the playground foot monster. He curled his lips downward in a tight frown, rejecting all entry. I chased his mouth around with the spoon as he twisted his head around in tight circles. But I had more tricks up my sleeve. I poked him in the chest with my free hand in a manner calculated to annoy. He didn't budge. I did it again and again and again. Not hard, but not in a manner to be ignored either. 10 or so pokes later, he opened his mouth, planning to emit a sound of outrage. Ha! His mistake. I deftly inserted the spoon. He tried gamely to force out the offending food with his tongue, but I know how to deal with that too. I just placed my forefinger horizontally across his lips. Some came out, but some was swallowed too. Score 1 for Dad. I gave him a pat on the head and told him that he was a good boy. And I meant it. When someone does something you are trying to get them to do, reward them. No grudge after victory. An hour later, it was all over. There was outrage. There was some wailing. My wife had to leave the room. The stress was too much, but food was eaten by child. My son collapsed, exhausted on my chest. We had a nap together, and he liked me a lot better when he woke up than he had before he was disciplined.